In this video, I wanted to talk about the speed that you should draw a line at. Now, when I first started drawing, it was extremely difficult for me. I never really had drawn in my life, and all of my attempts at drawing never really pushed out anything that was too good. So, what I learned, and I guess it was better that I was learning from the start, because I didn't have any bad habits already. So perhaps if you're watching this video when you're just starting off, it may be extremely beneficial. So when I would try to draw a line, I wasn't using my shoulder, but now I am using my shoulder. And when I was doing that, sometimes my hand or my shoulder would stop half of the way through. So I just drew a line from this point to this point, and I'm ghosting my lines. Like, I'm starting putting the tip of my pen. It's hard to see because I'm using digital, but it's basically just like 1 pixel. And then I'm starting here, going to the second point, and I'm ghosting my line. So it's kind of like you're fake drawing a line without actually drawing it, to get that extra practice in. And doing that, you pretty much gain a whole bunch of extra practice with drawing that line. So the speed, it's really hard to find a flow, but try to do it at a speed that isn't too fast, like you're whipping your hand across the page, and also not too slow. Because if you do a slow line, I missed it. But the slower the line, the more wobbly it's going to be. Now, I think there's a time and a place for everything. I actually do a daily exercise of what I call slow drawing. I do it for 5 minutes every day as part of a warm-up routine. So there's definitely benefit to doing it slow, but if you want to draw a confident line, you want to do it at a pace that feels okay. Now, to be honest, I feel like finding that perfect speed, it's more of an art than a science, and I think eventually over time you'll just know it, and maybe it'll be a little bit different for each and every line, but you will get used to it. And that's the whole point of ghosting, is to find a comfortable speed and approach angle to draw the given line that you want to. So it's, you like I said, you have to do a lot of it until you really understand it. I'll be honest with you, probably for the first 4 to 6 months, when I was drawing, and I would draw every day, I made that a massive habit. When I would do that, I still would experience not being able to, for instance, end at my ending point. Or like sometimes I would be drawing and it would, like, for some reason, I would stop drawing like half the way through, and it's like I didn't know why. Possibly it was because I lacked the muscle memory to execute the line, or possibly it was a mental block and I was overthinking it. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little combination of both, probably with more weight being on the lack of muscle memory, because I was moving my shoulder, drawing with my shoulder in a way that I had never done before. So because of that, that was just causing a bunch of issues with me being able to, execute that line. So I think occasionally, if you do want to draw with your wrist, there definitely is a lot to be said about doing it. I feel like you draw at a much slower speed because, it's a bit, or your wrist is a lot more constrained. So I guess you have to kind of find the pace that you want to do it, but it can be a bit tricky to figure out. But I have no doubt you can if you do it for a while. If you were doing something like shading or coloring, you would probably go a lot slower and probably work in much smaller chunks. So the speed, like, you really have to just, like, basically I would say the right speed is the speed that you're comfortable ghosting a line at. And once you have that down, then you could try to think of that and eventually try to make it second nature. So I think the big benefit now that you know to draw with your shoulder is that there is another type of thing called chicken scratch. So the funny thing is, I've been to certain places where certain artists would work like exclusively in chicken scratch, and it was it was very interesting because these places, like, people would consider this like an official piece or of art, and I found it very, you know, I found I found it interesting because I feel like this gives you an edge, because if you could draw confident lines, I mean, imagine what you can do. You could be you could be in famous museums and all of that if you could really like prove your confidence. Um, so it's a good habit to get out of doing that, and I think more often than not, if people are doing that chicken scratch, they are just using the wrist to try to draw a larger picture. So I think if you were to say draw a larger thing using your shoulder, it would not be considered chicken scratch. Like, I think using chicken scratch is like exclusively using your wrist, and like I said, I think the wrist is more meant for extremely fine detail or like handwriting compared to making a larger picture thing. So I'm gonna draw a box, and I'm gonna kind of show you what I mean. So I drew one line here, right? I drew another line there. I was a little off. And I'm going to ghost this line, because the more I ghost, the more accurate my lines are, usually. I was a little bit off. Let me try that again. But, like I said, the more you do this, I mean, the more you'll get that, you'll get in the flow. And, like, I think, if you ever heard of the flow state, you know, it's kind of like what I like to call it becoming second nature. And when you do that, like, you don't even really think about the speed you're drawing at, like, which is a cool thing, because it would be very annoying to think about it all the time. And sorry about that email noise in the back. I didn't turn my computer off after work, and the volume is loud. So, yeah, that's annoying. And I'm too lazy to edit that out of my video. I'm really sorry, but I will. Okay. Wait, it was muted. Well, that's stupid. Okay. Well, sorry about that. Little brief 20-second intermission. Yeah. So, basically, look, all of my lines in this box, I mean, it's not done yet, but all of my lines are confident. It's not like chicken scratch. I am using my shoulder for all of them, and I'm trying to think of the perspective and all that. So, like, I hope this kind of, like, helps to show that you can connect lines, and just because lines are connected in a bunch of ways, it doesn't mean they're chicken scratch. You know, I would say if it's, well, like I said, I already said it, if it's larger, don't try to, well, I mean, I guess it really depends. I think the problem with it is, like, the lack of planning, and you have a big picture in mind, and, like, when you could do a larger executed S-curve or C-curve, instead people were doing, like, oh, I want to draw an S-curve, so I'm going to draw that, and then I'm going to draw that, and then I'm going to draw that, and, you know, it kind of lacks, a thorough connection as well. So if you look at art that people have made using chicken scratch, it kind of has these little things that really lack the connection. I mean, granted, you can kind of see it here, here, and here, and here in my box, but the idea with your drawings is that you want to try to hide those dots, and that the dots I'm using in this box here are more for the purpose of a demonstration. So I'm really happy that I'm making this video, because I'm trying to cover everything in videos, that I learned when I first started out drawing. I mean, clearly there's a lot more I know. I hope I don't sound like a know-it-all, because I'm not, and I lack a lot of experience that I wish I had, but I am slowly getting there, one step at a time. And just to say, the other thing you should be aware of is that it takes years to get a sliver good. Like, I've had some of my work, I've been happy with some of it, but I have to say probably for the first 3 years it was just always bad, and I just had to keep pushing myself. It was kind of like bashing your head against a brick wall. I mean, not literally, because I wouldn't want to hurt myself in any way, but I mean from a mental standpoint, to do it all the time and to think about whether you're going to get a sliver better is very frustrating, and you just kind of have to do it, as painful as it is. I mean, I think it is painful, or it kind of was painful at first. It's kind of like there are a lot of mental blocks to get over, but you can do it. Just know that you can. And I think the idea of most of the fundamentals in art, the whole point of them is for them to become second nature, so like you know them and you don't really have to think about it. And it sounds extremely difficult, but like, hey, you can probably walk, and like you had to crawl before you could walk, and look, you're walking without thinking of it. So, you know, things like that. I mean, unless you don't have legs, but you get the point that I'm trying to say. I mean, think, or like breathing. I mean, I guess maybe another way to think about it is like, you know, as long as you're not thinking about breathing, well, you know, you're doing it automatically, but the second you think about breathing, it's like, I have to think about every breath now, you know? Yeah. So, just know that, like, it takes a lot of practice, and you will absorb it. I think that line was a little bit too wobbly. I am drawing this box a little small, so there is some wobbliness to it. Okay, well, there I have my box, and it seems a lot better than the chicken scratch nature. But yeah, I do have other videos if you're looking for a practice routine. I do recommend creating a practice routine for yourself, because if you do that as a warm-up every day, it can really help you get into the initial flow of drawing. I think when I wake up every day, it's kind of like I may forget something and I have to get back into the muscle memory of drawing. So I've structured a warm-up practice routine. I have it on another video in my YouTube channel. In the future, I will probably link to it in the description, but like I said, I think if you just type my name in YouTube and type in morning warm-up routine, it should appear. But yeah, it's all about getting into that flow state, and you will get it eventually. Thanks for sticking around in this video. If you have a question, please ask in the comments. If you like my channel, please subscribe. If you like the video, please like it. Thanks for sticking around. Bye.